Hello and welcome to the Yetti Den. My name is Spencer and this is our show, Tactically Sound, co-hosted by my friend Matt, also known as JumbyJumbwa. So on Tactically Sound, both of your hosts are RPG enthusiasts. So naturally, our podcast is all about role-playing games. Matt and I are starting a new series, and this one is focused on Bethesda Game Studios, The Elder Scrolls 3 Oblivion, of course, directed by Todd Howard, which Todd just did an interview with Mr. Matty Plays. It was super interesting. So we are going to be playing this for the first time, and we had just recently finished our Fallout TV discussion, which was super fun because we got to go in depth on all of those episodes. And now we are taking that format into our first game, which I'm so excited because Matt and I are not really your news guys. We will talk about stuff when Matt really wants to talk about something and text me, we got to talk about the Xbox Game Showcase. Or I'm sure there will be little things that'll come up where we'll slot in the news. But our main focus is gaming history, gaming related kind of behind the scenes, us role-playing with these games and our play experience. Matt does a lot of co-op. And so it's more for, lore deep dives and character discussions and plot discussions and all of that. So if you like Oblivion, then this might be fun for you to see what our impressions of one of your favorite games are. If you've never played Oblivion, then this is also great because you could play along with us. In this first episode, we just did the first hour. So we are going to talk about how we set up our characters and the introduction to the world of Oblivion. We'll be analyzing the lore of Tamriel presented in the first hour of the game and sharing each of our own unique character backgrounds, our choice of class, skills, motivations, and general approach to open world RPGs like Oblivion. So let's go back to the year 2006. Matt, otherwise known as JumbyJumbwa, why don't you tell me what's your prior relationship to the Elder Scrolls series?
Let's see. This goes way back to year 20. Let's see. Honestly, my first ever... I'm kind of jumping into the next question. I see the earliest memory, but my prior relationship, let's not go exactly there yet. My prior relationship is lots of modding in Skyrim, lots of RPing in Skyrim, and then also moving on from there when ESO first dropped. I was playing that from its birth for a couple years. So I got pretty into ESO with some friends, but then we all just stopped playing. I don't know anything about the new drops, like the new seasons or whatever they're called. But that was pretty fun. I love Elder Scrolls, mostly Skyrim, and what I've played on ESO. I have my problems and hangs up with it, but that's my relationship with it. I'm very, very, very excited for the next Elder Scrolls game, which should come out in a couple years, hopefully. So we'll see.
Yeah. And then what's your earliest memory of Oblivion?
Okay, this is the thing that popped in my head first, and I wanted to just say it. It tripped me up a little bit. But my earliest memory of Oblivion is literally talking to one of my high school buddies, Cody, and I was telling him how I loved Assassin's Creed or other RPGs and action RPGs. And I also like strategy RPGs, but we're talking about action RPGs on the consoles, and Assassin's Creed recently came out, and I was always talking about that game, and then was kind of complaining though, I just want a good character creator in Assassin's Creed or something like that. And there's nothing like it. Where's that game? And he said, I actually play this game called Oblivion. And Oblivion, you get to fight with like whatever weapon you want, a sword, magic, you name it. It's a fantasy setting, but you get to create your own character and role play as that character through this epic adventure. I guess kind of like Assassin's Creed. So I end up coming over to his house and he boots it up. And I remember him just laughing and showing me like the character creator. You can make wild designs. And, but I remember walking away from it going like, you know what? All the characters he made or we were laughing the whole time, but none of them were cool. And, you know, what's the name of, Assassin's Creed, the name of the main protagonist?
Is it Ezio?
Ezio's the second one. The first game. Altair. Okay, I'm like, okay. Altair has the cool vibe, you know? like he looks like a badass ancient warrior. And I was like, this is fun. But what's funny, and you know this, is that I've evolved in my role-playing and gameplay experience to like kind of embrace the silly characters and like obscure characters. But I still have a place in my heart where I do love like the chosen one, pretty boy protagonist, you know, or like gritty, dark, epic slayer kind of character. Yeah, so that's my first experience with Oblivion is finding it intriguing, different, but also like jarring with like this character creator is wild.
Yeah, I think the character creator is the thing that I hope they work the most on for Elder Scrolls 6 because it's really rough. I mean, in most games, I think Fallout 3 is pretty decent. I think Fallout 4 is pretty decent for the character creator. I'm sure 76 is a little bit better, but even Starfield, I struggled with the character creator. I just wish there was a little bit more of a style because it's not hyper realistic.
Right.
So if you can't give me hyper realistic, that's actually okay. Give me a little bit of like, don't give me so much freedom to create such horrific creatures. Like when I'm trying to make beautiful kind of straight down the middle, like this is an attractive hero, you know?
Right.
And so it's kind of like, I think that's the weakness, especially with Oblivion. So I kind of chose a character from my D&D world that is an elf, so that way I could stick with the elf race and not have to worry about trying to make a human look like a human, you know? Because I'll spend so much time on Oblivion making this handsome dude, and I'll be like, okay, like after in 30 minutes, I'm like, okay, I feel pretty confident. Like I think he looks pretty good. He's got something about him. He's got a little bit of a swagger. And then Mo will come in and I'll be like, what do you think about my character? And she'll be like, he's so ugly.
I know. The girls always destroy it, dude. They always
And
wreck
I'm
you.
like, no, he's got kind of a swagger about him. You don't see that? Like, you don't see he's kind of handsome? But it's like your eyes get used to the world of Oblivion. And you're like, for Oblivion, he's handsome.
Also, like, your imagination starts adding to it. So, because, like, you're trying to fill in the gaps that they're lacking, you know? Like, I'll get into it when we talk about who I made. What you just brought up, who you made. I want to share my character. I try to make Crowman that is like my main in Elden Ring. And if you guys don't know who Crowman, Crowman is basically think of a minotaur, right? A bull on a human body, buff, ripped, ready to slay, strength build, just kind of mythology, legend, and imagine more of a crow head. But what's unique about Crowman is that it's not a literal crow head like a bull's head on a minotaur. It's actually a human's face, but from a distance, you are mistaken and think that it's a crow, especially from the profile. right? And so
That
there's something
is a wild
creepy
setup.
about him, and
Yes.
amazing and fantastical about Crowman.
Yes.
Especially in the Elden Ring setting. But for some reason, he did not translate so well into Oblivion. I thought I had it, so I'm going to make a new character. Crowman is for other games where you can actually make a crow. You can't do it in this game. They try to go the hyper realism enough to where I can't do it.
I want to talk about the opening cinematic, because when you play the game on the menu, there's a little bit of a VO, and then when you actually start it, it goes into this cool opening cinematic. And I'll just read it because I think there is a lot of lore setup, and I'm picturing, we've never played Morrowind because I haven't played Morrowind in forever, and I even struggle to remember what the plot is, but I do have the game here. So real quick, I'll just say what Morrowind says. It's just that it's a detailed game world. Morrowind sets a new standard. Like, they're more even talking about the tech. Like, they don't even really set up the story much in here even. I'm sure maybe there's got to be like a quick little blurb about the world of Morrowind. Yeah, so it's a role-playing game. It's the follow-up to Arena and Daggerfall. And then they say, one of the first questions people usually ask us is, what do I do in this game? The answer we give is, well, do what you want to do. Do you want to be a noble knight or a treacherous swine? 1 minute you may be gazing up to the moon and stars, and then you're in the Sea of Ghosts. So that Morrowind is based in Varvindel. The setting is a culturally and geographically diverse place, volcanic, the Red Mountains, and dwellings made of giant mushrooms, grown mages, and majestic ancient city of Vivek. It's filled with things for you to do. There's a main quest. And so, yeah, they don't go into crazy details. So I'm imagining that if you never played Morrowind, like, I think it would be richer experience if you knew a little bit about Morrowind. But if you're new, like we kind of are, I have a feeling that like Oblivion will make as much sense as it can on its own. So the way they set up Oblivion is, I was born 87 years ago. For 65 years, I've ruled as Tamriel's emperor. But for all these years, I've never been the ruler of my own dreams. I've seen the gates of Oblivion beyond which no waking eye may see. Behold, in darkness, a doom sweeps the land. This is the 27th of the last seed, the year of Akatosh 433. These are the closing days of the third era and the final hours of my life. So in the opening cutscene, we're introduced to the Emperor of Tamriel. And in his dreams, he sees the gates of Oblivion. The dreamlike prophecy brings doom to the land. So what do you think of this premise? Because you didn't really play Morrowind. No. So what do you think of this premise of, you have this emperor who is seeing dreams and recognizes you, and in his dreams there's doom, and it kind of has a very Tolkien setup in a way. It kind of reminds me of Tolkien. But what did you think when you saw that cinematic, if you watched it all the way through, or even just hearing this description? What were your thoughts?
So I've seen that cinematic probably the most out of any part of this game. I remember seeing it for the first time with my friend Cody, and I remember thinking, like, this looks interesting. This looks cool. I like at the time, the CGI, the dramatic storytelling. It really felt, the most Tolkien-esque out of all the video games I've seen up until that moment. Now watching it years later, I still think it holds up pretty well. It's pretty cool, but you can tell. I guess as an adult, I can see the tropes, right? Like I can tell what they're borrowing from. And then it's also hard too, because this is kind of like my first playthrough, so I'm kind of in a way judging it like I'm seeing it for the first time again. I'm like already comparing it to things that were inspired by it, and who've done it better, in my opinion. So it's interesting. There's that mixed bag for me of like appreciation, but also like I love other titles since then so much too, and I'm trying to be fair and compare it with those things. But I like it. I think it does well. It's clear, it's concise, it's exciting. Did you think the same thing, or how are you interpreting this?
So I have this like ability to transport myself to an era, and that's why the channel is the way it is, because I can play stuff and I'll literally get nostalgic about things that I've never seen before. And I've really never watched, and that's why I like doing these kinds of things, because when I do sit there and I know I'm going to talk about it, a filter gets over my eyes and it's like, I'm literally in 2006 and I'm like watching this. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. And then I try to stay in that zone as long as I can. Yeah, because like I don't have that criticism.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't work for everything, but it does work for certain things that catch my eye. Like you know, I got obsessed with Quake in 2022, and then I made that documentary. And so it's like, I had never played Quake before, but reading everyone's comments, being like, oh, I stayed up till this time. It's like, well, I was alive, so I know what it felt like to stay up playing like Delta Force or Morrowind or Half-Life or Time Splitters. And Quake was like that for them. And the same goes for Oblivion. Like, I didn't have an Xbox 360, but my friends did. And I remember how impactful Oblivion was for them. And also, though, watching them make this game, it was fun. Now, will I be able to stay in that zone this whole time? Who knows? I might. There are some things that I've seen in previous beginnings of playthroughs where I'm like, ooh, we'll see how that goes. Will I be able to stay immersed and like stay present during the playthrough? We will see.
I will say, I will give this intro a little bit more credit in terms of it was kind of a quick, a bit vague intro, right? I'm sure it was a lot for its time period, like you said, putting on those goggles, watching and appreciating it from that way. And I get what you're saying, like tapping into that. But I think what really made me start being more interested and intrigued, I'm thinking of this Japanese word in my head right now, omoshiroi, like getting really into it. What
does that word mean?
Omoshiroi? It's I'm probably not even saying it right. I sound like an idiot. It means like interesting, like this is really entertaining in a way, interesting in an entertaining way. I thought it was really cool to start off right away as a prisoner that's interacting with the king who you're first learning about in the cutscene. I thought that was kind of cool, where it's like, here's the first character you meet. It's not even really about this character. Here's your character. And now we're going to actually tell the prologue more with the gameplay instead of letting you sit in a lot of cutscene. And so I think that was kind of big and huge because, up until this point, you're getting lots of linear gameplay, lots of cutscenes. Think of like Kingdom Hearts and stuff. And so it was kind of nice to be thrown into the game with little information. And already feel like the payoff with how they're telling the story through the gameplay experience and teaching you through the tutorial. I think it's probably one of the first ever games that actually did it super well like they did. So I will say that.
I think it's unfortunate that they went in that Lord of the Rings direction, because for me, it's like you have those Tolkien films that really capture the vibe of Lord of the Rings, and it turns the Elder Scrolls into too much of a similar kind of aesthetic. So I think that was ultimately something they could have maybe done a little less of, because I don't want the Elder Scrolls to feel like an off-brand Tolkien universe. And coming in from Morrowind, it feels so unique and so inspired that was always my fear. But I do think it's wise to build the game around this king, voiced by Patrick Stewart, because I think I love Patrick Stewart, and I think his voice does capture this like father-like figure, and I think they do a good job so far in the first hour of making you feel like you're you, but like I really felt like the king was talking to me. Like like I felt like I was connected to him in that narrative while not getting my entire identity ripped from me like I felt in Fallout 4. Whereas like Fallout 4, it's like, you got a wife, you got a kid, and you're gonna go do this, and then and it's like that feels too much of established background for a character that is supposed to be an open book. So I really like this, like, whoa, shoot, I'm talking to the king, I'm getting to know him, and he doesn't know who I am. He just saw me in his dream. I think that keeps it vague enough to where I could establish my own character arc. But it is cool because it feels like I'm meeting a celebrity of Tamriel, which is cool. And I think the more that we get to know these characters like we would in a Harry Potter book or in a Tolkien book or in a Dune book, like that there are these like characters in this mythos that all of us as players can understand and learn, that's more exciting for me for sure. And I like the way he talks. I love being a prisoner. I think that's a great trope for Elder Scrolls, starting as a prisoner. I think that that feels consistent and cool. My favorite version of that is in Morrowind, but I like this one a lot. I think this one is number 2 so far, because Skyrim, for me, that opening doesn't hook me in as mysteriously as Skyrim or as Oblivion does and Morrowind, because I love being in the dungeon. I love the lighting tech and the textures of that dungeon. The ambiance is great. The weapons are great. I think they made beautiful looking people when you're meeting, not the king. There is a render of the king or the emperor, whatever, in the cutscene where I'm like, that's what he's supposed to look like.
Right.
And then when they use the tech, it's like, ooh, he's not looking so hot. Yeah, exactly. But the guards look amazing. I'm like, okay, it shows. Maybe it's because we don't see their full heads.
Right.
But the guards look amazing. Renault and Boris, and I think there's one other. But I want to read some of the dialogue because I want to show why it hooked me in. So for me, I played as a wood elf. We'll get more into that in a second. But they say, hey, wood elf, you're a little far from the forest. Looks like your days of woodland frolicking have come to a tragic end. So this is actually the other prisoner talking to you from across the thing. And I love that. I love he's kind of like a scoundrel, like a vagabond, gross sounding prisoner.
Well, it makes the world feel more loud. Alive, sorry.
Yes, it makes the world feel more alive. I totally agree.
Already,
and then
immediately.
Then he says, to go from the gladed realm of Valenwood to a rat-infested hole like this, how very sad. Those walls must feel like they're closing in on you. Pretty soon you'll go mad and the guards will cut your throat just to stop their ranting. That's right, you're going to die in here, Wood Elf, die. And that's like Morrowind. Remember how I told you last week? It's like, you will die! Like, I love the Elder Scrolls world of these people always telling you're gonna die. Like, I love that type of, it's a dangerous world and they don't like you and you're an outsider and they're just like they have no love for you when they first meet you. I think that's really cool. And then, hey, you hear that? The guards are coming for you. He. So, and then we meet Captain Renault and Boris, and they're a lot more serious. And I think already that character juxtaposition is really interesting, because it shows, okay, there's dynamic. Like, you have some characters that are going to be really just off-putting and gross to you, and then you have other people who are distant because they don't trust you, but they themselves have an honor code, right? So Boris locked that door behind us. Captain Renault says, yes, sir. And then, my sons, they're dead, aren't they? And I think this is, again, that great Patrick Stewart acting where I believe that this old man is like being rushed and I think he just found out that his sons are dead, right? Again, that's a great trope for him. I'm glad it's not me. I'm glad it's not like, your sons just died. It's like, what? I have sons? I'm glad they put this backstory into the Emperor, not me. What's this prisoner doing here? The cell is supposed to be off limits, and they usually mix up. Prisoner, stand away from the door over by the window now. Stay put, prisoner. Good luck, or good, let's go. And then this is when Uriel Septim sees us. So what did you think when you met Uriel Septim? Were you underwhelmed? Were you thinking, I've seen this been done better in a video game? Or how did you react to meeting Uriel Septim?
No, like I was saying earlier, I thought this part was done really well and it was really cool. I was like, oh, I already know this character from the short cutscene, super easy to remember. And now I'm going to kind of get more of the story from him because he's telling the story. And it's cool that he is being rushed out. And and fleeing from assassins and stuff, because that adds a thrilling experience for me. And it just makes it more intriguing that I need information from this guy. I need to know what's going on so I can go do my mission. But he might die, and he might die really soon. So I got to do all I can to follow him and get as much story as possible. So I thought that was very, very clever writing and good, a good place to start.
Yeah. So yeah, he says, I've seen you. Let me see your face. You were the one of my dreams. Then the stars were right, and this is the day God's given me strength. Then, we ask what's going on. Assassins attacked my sons, and I'm next. My Blades. So we're meeting the Blades faction, which, again, this is why I want to go back to, like, Morrowind at least, just to see, what are the Blades doing in Morrowind? Because we know the Blades from Skyrim, if you remember.
Yeah, I remember the Blades from Skyrim.
Yeah, so my Blades are leading me out of the city along a secret escape route. By chance, the entrance to that escape route leads through your cell. So he's already realizing, like, something's up, because I've seen you before. What are the chances that, like, you are in the cell that leads me out of here? And then I asked, who are you? I am your emperor, Uriel Septim. By the grace of the gods, I serve Tamriel as her ruler. You are a citizen of Tamriel, and you too shall serve here in your own way. Like, for me, this is what I love about good RPG design is, I want to say Uriel Septim is like an imperial, because I think it's the imperial city. He's like the head of the imperial city. Mm-hmm. And anytime you can make the imperial faction likable, and then when you go out through the world, you discover people like, no, they're not chill. Like, they're not, like, I feel like you got to make the Golden Path likable. So that way, when you meet the other factions, you can see another side to them. And then you kind of feel a little torn because you're like, maybe Uriel has done some sketchy stuff. Like, maybe he's waged some wars. Who knows? We're going to find out. Right. But I like this dude. He's charming. Yes. He's nice. It's kind of like he's luring me in. I want to save this dude if I can. But we don't really know who he is and what he's done. We might meet other factions who paint a totally different picture of him. And so I think it's okay to make these, it's kind of like Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader. It's like you kind of want your audience to fall in love with the, anti-hero or the people we're not maybe supposed to like. So that way, when we meet someone who knows the treachery or the ramifications of their actions, that you now are torn. Like, oh shoot, what do we do? So I don't know how his legacy will play out in the game, but will we meet other factions who really don't like him and paint a good argument for why we shouldn't do what he wants us to do? But they usher him out, and then we get ambushed by the Mythic Dawn. And I thought these guys were super cool as well. What did you think of meeting the Mythic Dawn?
I think that was cool to already see assassins trying to throw us into a fight. And that's the common trope, of like trying to get anyone interested in a book or a movie, whatever. But it works really well, especially fly. Especially really well in the story they're trying to set up. Like, don't got a lot of time left. I got this prophecy vision. You're here now, prisoner. I'm escaping through the This is all fate stuff. I think like the ambush. It's just pushing the story along. It's getting us to learn how to fight, but also pushing us forward out of the cell to push us out of there. So I don't know how else they would have done it. They would have had to, lure us outside some other way. But I think this was probably one of the best ways they could have done it.
Yeah, I love how Glenroy is like, damn it, it's that prisoner again. Kill him. He might be working with the assassins. Like, that'd be so terrifying if you're a prisoner. Like, by one hand, the emperor of the Imperial City or Emperor of Tamriel is like, bro, like, I saw you in your vision. We met. Like, this is big. And then his bodyguard is like, kill him. He might be a part of the assassins.
When that happened, I literally turned around, like, ready to fight. Like, you gonna get me right now? Like, are we gonna go throw down right now? But I love they do that because, like, that brings you into the game. Make sure you're paying attention to the dialogue, not just who you're talking to, but in the world. So it's like teaching the player, like, pay attention. A dialogue is important in this game, and it is. It's why we enjoyed these kind of RPG games. So I thought that was hilarious too. That was so funny.
So Uriel saves us by saying, no, he's not one of them. He can help us. He must help us. They cannot understand why I trust you. They've not seen what I've seen. How can I explain? Listen, you know the nine, how they guide our fates with an invisible hand. My wood elf is not religious. So I said, I'm not on good terms with the gods. And then he said, I've served the nine all my days, and I chart my course by the cycles of the heavens. The skies are marked with numberless sparks, each a fire, and every one a sign. I know these stars well, and I wonder which sign marked your birth. So these birth signs that are the stars, there's 10 of them. Which one did you choose?
When this appeared, I thought I chose something that said warrior or something. And I'm looking at the notes right here and I don't see it. So I must have chose something else really quick.
Let's see. You probably chose a warrior class.
Yeah, I remember seeing that for sure. But yeah, I don't know what I picked here.
Yeah, when I first played this, I just clicked whatever. I clicked I believe I clicked the thief. Ability grants a 10-point bonus to your agility, speed, and luck. I believe I chose this thief. I need to watch my footage to make sure. Because at this point, you're presented with this thing and you're just I don't know, let's go with that. But yeah, there's 10 of them, and I'm gonna do a video on these birth signs. Just one for nostalgia for those who have played it, but then two for people like me who are just getting into it and wondering how does this affect stuff? Should we care about this? But there's the apprentice, the lady, the mage, the thief, the atronach, the lord, the lover, the ritual, the serpent, and the shadow. When I was playing Morrowind as a kid, I used invisibility all the time to wreak havoc on that world. I was a troublemaker with the invisibility.
I bet that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So let's talk about our characters, who we are. So introduce us to your character's background. So are you going back then and changing Crowman to something else? Are you gonna pick a different character, or are you rocking Crowman through this?
You can't make Crowman, so I'm gonna have to change it. But I'm still going to play who Crowman is as a character, which is kind of this barbaric monstrosity strength build. So nice. I just need to figure out how I want to present that in this game.
So you're going to be like a barbarian, essentially, kind of vibe?
I remember reading whatever the warrior one said, you master all melee weapons, and I was like, you know what? I've always played an archer build, sneak archer build. I have more confidence in my gaming ability now. I'm going to try to be more of a melee character and explore more of that kind of gameplay experience instead of playing this, I guess, more of a safer action RPG route, which is Archer. So, because I haven't quite learned how to block well, in these games yet. So that's going to be interesting to see the blocking, defensive, even dodging mechanics in this game.
Yeah. Okay, so then character alignment. What do you usually play when you're role playing? Would you choose choices that are lawful good, neutral good, chaotic good, or lawful neutral, true neutral, chaotic neutral, or lawful evil, neutral evil, or chaotic evil? And I actually found someone on Reddit had shared a character alignment sheet with characters that I thought was super helpful. Let's see if I can. I mean, there's a bunch of them, but this is a different one than the one I was looking at. But this is from Dungeons of Dragons fandom. So they have lawful good would be Superman. They have neutral good would be kind of I guess this would be like a Han Solo kind of character. And then chaotic good is like the character from, I forget the name of the show. The guy with the mustache mask. He's like anonymous. I forget what movie that's from. It's blanking me. And then lawful neutral is like Star Trek. True neutral, I believe, is that the trees from Lord of the Rings, the Ents? And then chaotic neutral is Captain Jack Sparrow. Lawful evil is Darth Vader. Neutral evil is the alien, and chaotic evil is the Joker. Let's see, character alignment. Reddit. What do you usually lean towards?
I mean, it depends on the character that you're role playing as, for sure. But most of my role playing experience has been either that lawful good character, or I would say chaotic neutral. So I would say like when I am like trying to just be my generic good guy that I have in the past. I'm always lawful good, but I would say Crowman's more chaotic neutral. He's more he can end up doing something you don't expect. He could flip sides if he needed to, because chaotic neutral to me just seems like he's out for himself. What's the best story for him? And
right.
That could be kind of fun to do in games. So those are the two I play with. I try to tap into evil playthroughs, especially in like games like Red Dead, where you're already, you're a bandit. You're you're a hustler. What a wrangler. What's the name I'm looking for? Gosh, we're
Mercenary?
forgetting names. Anyways. He's already on the run from the law, so it's kind of easier in Red Dead 2 to play as an evil character. But there's something about it must be the good nature inside me that it's just too strong. I very much like I give up on the evil playthroughs because I just started getting so disgusted with like what I'm deciding to do in these games.
Right.
I'm like,
right.
I would never do this in real life, and now I'm doing it in here, and like. Oh, it's like shocking, like watching Game of Thrones or something, right? But like doing it and making the choices yourself, like it just sometimes feels weird to me and foreign. And once that entertainment factor is gone for me, it's like this is not fun anymore. Like I don't want to continue playing this evil playthrough if I'm not enjoying it anymore. I always enjoy being good, saving the day. And I always enjoy being funny. So if we can keep it in those realms, like, yeah, whether it's a good or evil choice, it's not going to matter to me because I want to feel good when I play a game, whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards true neutral or chaotic good. That's kind of what I think my usually role play as, depending on the writing of the game, like depending on the options and which options get the result that I want.
Right.
But yeah, very rarely am I a lawful good or a neutral good. I think I'm more leaning towards chaotic good or true neutral. And then let's see. So let's talk about our thoughts on the tutorialization of the game. Like, how does it control? How does it feel in your hands?
You meaning like
well,
the little messages that pop up and tell you how to play the game.
You shoot the bow. It's like pick up the axe. Doing the lock picking, even moving the camera around, crouching. How did that feel to you?
It feels old to me right now. I tried looking at it through like the lenses of that time, and at that time, it makes me feel like it's more mature. Like I felt like this game's more for a mature audience who can read well and comprehend. If you were a young kid playing this game, you're just skipping through everything, right? It kind of reminded me of when I was a kid, and I would play Super Mario, and that's obviously a kid game. But whenever there was dialogue in that game, and there was some, you just press A, skip, because it's just like paragraphs, right? And that's how I felt about this tutorial. It's like, oh, I just see paragraphs. Like my intuition is I already have video game literacy. I played, Skyrim, Elder Scrolls. I played other RPGs. I played Fallout. Like I'm gonna already know how this game works. So I just honestly, when I played it, I skip. I just skipped through everything. I appreciated seeing like the font though, and like the style they're going for. And I think that's all cool and appropriate. But yeah, that's my take. I feel like it's it was aimed at a more mature audience, and I think it's good for what it is and what it does. What about you?
Yeah, I thought it controlled pretty well, using the magic, like casting the spells. I assigned the hotkeys right away, and I love having those hotkeys. Like I think I assigned like fire and heal, and then I have the bow easy accessible. I was trying to level up the dagger, so I was using the dagger a lot. But yeah, between like the dagger and the flames and healing, I just feel so powerful already. Yeah. And for me, because I grew up with Bethesda games, it's just like, oh yeah, this is how a game is supposed to feel, I actually prefer Oblivion's setup to Starfield's setup, and I want to say I even prefer it to Fallout 4.
I would say I would piggyback on what you're saying, and I noticed me thinking, oh, it's really nice that I can easily shoot magic like a fireball and then attack right away. Yes, like in Skyrim you can do the same thing, but for some reason this is done in a different. I think in Skyrim you assign it to one hand and then the other hand's attack. But like, what if you want to use a two-handed sword? Then you're constantly switching between favorites, right? I got the sensation, I don't know if I was, probably not. I felt like I was using a two-handed sword, and that I was just had that hotkey to be able to shoot my fireball really quick. And I was like, this is kind of nice to have the best of both worlds. Now I'm going to have to play a little bit more to see how it all actually works, like how the game plays out in the world. But I agree with you. Like it actually plays well for what it is, and it's easy to comprehend and understand.
Right. Yeah, no, totally. So let's see here then. First impression. So, well, actually, let's skip over that and let's jump into the classes. So you said you chose a warrior. I'll read what a warrior is. Unafraid of light weaponry, they plow into the fray with little regard for injury. Masters of all melee tools, they put a little faith in the magical art. So yeah, you were saying you have fire, and you have the ability to use light weaponry. And then I chose, I believe I chose rogue. When you finished, did they tell you were a warrior by the way you were playing in the tutorial, or did you have to reselect it? Because what they do is they let you choose, and then you play, and then they tell you what you like actually did.
I don't remember. Was it for you? I don't remember. I'm gonna have to double check. But if they're gonna tell me I'm something else, I'm not gonna agree. I'm gonna be like, I'm a freaking warrior, bro.
Yeah. So they told me I was a pilgrim, which I thought was really interesting because I was actually looking at their description and like what a pilgrim's skills are, and I was like, dude, that's actually pretty close. But I think a rogue is more close because the character I'm playing as, Odessa, he is a shopkeep, and I would use that character to try and throw my party of friends off whenever they were trying to do the golden path of the main quest for Dungeons and Dragons. So say the main quest is like, you need to go save this person far away. Odessa would be like, hey, I know you guys are about to go on a mission, but on your way, I've heard that there is this magical axe that it's actually a friend of mine's, and they left it in a cave. Do you mind going and getting it for me? And then they would try to decide, because they know Odessa, they're like, it's not a friend of his. Like, there's probably more to this story. Like, it's probably actually the exact type of person we don't want to be stealing from. And so they would be like, are you sure it's your friend? It's like, well, we're close. We see each other. If you want, come to the party tonight with me. I'll introduce you to them. And like, they are just, he's always keeping you on your toes. If he's like, and he just keeps raising the ante. He's like, I'll give you 10,000 gold if you do it. Like, don't worry about the money. I'll take care of you. I'll make it worth your time. And he's always trying to like tempt that risk of a player. You know, what risks are they willing to take? And he'll always, his friends are annoying. Like his friends are divas. They're like trust fund babies in like medieval. It's like, they don't have to worry about questing, and he's always like at a party. He's always drinking late. Everyone is like got the finest of things and just like being super dismissive of the party. So in a way, I try to create this like psychological effect where the party is like I want him to like me, but I also hate this dude. But he also pays really well, and I'm actually I can't stop thinking about like, is he lying to me or not? And like, are there going to be more benefits to keeping this guy around? And he just always knows how to stay one step ahead of the party to stay involved in their lives. And he's just a big distraction. So when I read Pilgrim, like hardy folk, well versed in the tomes of old, they profit in life by bartering in the market or by persuading the weak-minded. I was like, well, that's totally him. But then rogue is they use their speed in combat rather than brute force, persuasive in conversation. Their tongues are as sharp as blades. I was like, that's a little bit more. He's like, Pilgrim just sounds so honest, and like the way the Pilgrim looked, it almost looked like him. So like if he would have his own reality TV show if he was in modern day society. So he's like a pretty boy, but he looks mischievous and like you can't trust him. So I went with Rogue for mine.
That's cool.
And then I'll just describe their skills that they have. So they have strength, which affects your maximum fatigue, maximum encumbrance, and damage done by melee weapons and hand-to-hand attacks. Intelligence affects your maximum magicka. I think I copied that wrong, unless they both affect magicka. We'll circle back to that on the next episode. Agility affects your maximum fatigue. Speed affects your movement. Endurance affects your maximum fatigue, starting health, and health gain upon leveling up. Personality affects our disposition scores with NPCs. And then luck modifies the effective values of all skills. So, what do you think about this setup? Does it remind you of Skyrim? Does it feel different than Skyrim?
It reminds me
Skyrim adjacent.
It reminds me of Skyrim, or just honestly a Bethesda game. I think everything's pretty similar. There's some differences, it seems, but it looks like, with any of these systems, I just kind of see, like, I look for the keywords that I'm looking for, what I need in my build. And so the ones that are screaming out to me for like a strength build, and maybe some of you guys in the comments can help me out with my build. But I'm looking at, I see obviously strength, right? But it looks like I definitely need to pour some into endurance too. And those are kind of going to be like the two, there's always like two main ones, I feel like, when you're building something. So I think like for my build, I'm going to be leaning more on strength and endurance. I'm sure I'm going to be, tapping into other attributes as well. But, those are the main ones popping out to me at the moment. What about you for Rogue? Are you thinking like speed?
Yeah, I do like to move really fast. I would love to be able to get my personality up, with NPCs.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because I do think there's like a chat mini game in here. So definitely do that. And then whatever really, I cast a lot of magic in Elder Scrolls games, so magic will be key. And then we can wrap up, but I wanted to see, was there anything else that kind of sets the tone for the game for us? Do you have any other final thoughts before we
I was impressed with the design of the goblins. They're goblins, right? In the cave.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh-huh. I was impressed with that because I was expecting, after seeing the king and you see the greater land, it looks super fairy tale, kind of like, and I'm like, where's the dark and grittiness that we saw in the hellscape of Oblivion, the prophecy, right? And where are those kind of like themes? And it was cool to be again thrown into that darkened dungeon. It gets darker and darker and darker to the point where you're now fighting goblins. Instead of just assassins, right? And I thought the designs were kind of creepy and they were dark. And it reminded me of the one you said that had a good character design was Dragon's Dogma. I thought Dark Arisen. I thought some of those designs reminded me of that, which makes sense because this is they're both. Oh wait, no, Dragon's Dogma is a JRPG, but this is a Western RPG. But like, it's cool to see that Dragon's Dogma is clearly inspired by Western, and here it is. Here's that Western game that could inspire that franchise too. So yeah, I thought the designs were cool. And that's nice to see because I appreciate how hard it was to make games back then look good. Right. So they did well with that.
Yeah. No, I'm excited to keep playing. So let me see what our next episode will be. This is the first time we've kind of switched into covering games with our new format as we grow the podcast. So role-playing. So next what we'll be talking about is the art direction and setting. So the UI, the character models, which we've just kind of touched on, but we'll go deeper. Weapon design, the textures, the skybox. That's one of the things you see when you walk out. Concept art influences, and just the overall graphics. So we'll dive deeper into that next episode. So we'll probably, both you and I will go off into the land and just like look for stuff. Like, what does it look like? What does this world offer? Maybe check out a couple dungeons, check out a couple quest givers, a couple towns, maybe, to be able to give our first impressions on those elements of the game. But yeah, I think we leave it here. So yeah, this is our first episode on Oblivion, and super excited to keep diving in. And where can people follow you, Matt?
You can follow me on YouTube at JumbyJumbwa, JumbyJumbwa, Jumbwa. And you can also find me on Instagram. Same thing. So on Instagram, I'm a little bit more active, posting funny memes. I love Lord of the Rings memes. So if you like that too, stop on by and follow me on Instagram. But if you are more interested in actual longer videos, longer content, I will only post that on my YouTube. And right now it's just Game Boys, but I hope to do all sorts of things, RPGs, and I even am interested in modding other things than Game Boys as well. So let's talk about it. Let's do it there, guys. JumbyJumbwa.
Love it. And you're already on Yetti then, so just subscribe, leave a comment, let us know if you've played Oblivion, what your thoughts are. And we will see you guys all next time. Later. Bye.
Oi, 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 oi.